days are cold and the cards all fold, and the saints we see are all made of gold.
When your dreams they fail and the ones we hear are the worst of
Give me a thumbs up to start the live on Facebook, because they won't be able to hear the music.
I wanna hide the truth, I wanna shelter you, but
Me?
with the beast inside,
And you want me to check?
nowhere we can hide.
There you go, there you
No
go.
matter what we breed, we still are made of greed. This is my kingdom come, this is my kingdom come. When you feel my heat, look into my eyes. It's where my demons hide. It's where my demons hide.
I thought I could hear it, but I can't hear the song.
It's dark inside. It's where my demons hide. It's where my demons hide.
I did hear it before, though.
The last of all, when the lights fade out, all the sinners crawl.
So they dug your grave and the masquerade will come calling out at the mess you made.
Don't wanna let
Yeah, I
you
can't hear it,
down, but I am hellbound. Though this is all for you, don't wanna hide the truth.
No.
No matter what we breed, we still are made of greed. This is my kingdom come. This is my kingdom come.
When you feel my heat, look into my eyes. It's where my demons hide. It's where my demons hide.
Don't get too close, it's dark inside. It's where my demons hide. It's where my demons hide.
Yeah.
They say it's
Good.
what you make. I say it's up to fate. It's woven in my soul. I need to let you go.
Your eyes, they shine so bright. I wanna save their light. I can't escape this now unless you show me how. When you feel my heat, look into my eyes. It's where my demons hide. It's where my demons hide. Don't get too close, it's dark inside. It's where my demons hide. It's where my demons hide.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Matt Dupree Podcast. Hi. Hey guys, welcome in. Thank you for showing up to visit with me, doing a follow-up with Nick Marchetti. Today, we will be visiting with Nick as he talks about how he's feeling since his top surgery and getting to know more about Nick and what his next steps will be in his transition. There are no right or wrong ways to start to transition. There is no do it this way or do it that way. You got to start here. You have to do this first. No. What we do recommend, which Nick is very was ahead of the game, and so was I. And I would assume most trans people had to have that conversation with their family at least once before they actually realized that they're trans, by saying maybe they were lesbian or maybe they were pan or whatever that identity was or assumed to have been. At some point, most of us had to come out at least once. Hey, mom, pop, I'm a lesbian. I'm a dyke. I like women. I'm messed up. Whatever. So the bottom line is, get your family, get that communicated to them, and get them on board with you. You want to build that support group, and that's where you start. And just like Nick said last time perfectly, our last visit was they are on the journey with us. And as we all know, this journey is, we're on a continuum, right? As we are learning ourselves all over again, okay? There are no right or wrong ways to transition. Step one, preferably, would be build that support network. You're going to need that. Hi. Welcome in. Yes. Good. Are we visible to everyone? Can you see us? Anyone? Michelle?
That was my comment, Matt. I was asking if they can see us because I don't see us on Twitch.
You don't?
No.
We should be on live and streaming. We have some.
Okay.
Hello. Hey, how you doing, my little buddy? Jess is on. Jess, can you see us? Are we visible? Huh? Hello? It takes a few seconds for them from the time we say something to the time they catch it. So, hopefully there's no glitches in the system. Hey, Jess, if you're standing there or you're right here, can you let us know if you could see us, hear us, all that stuff. Okay, folks, we're going to hold the line a second and see if somebody can respond. Anyone watching today can respond, see if you see us. Glad you have Twitch up on your side. I don't have it up on mine. And I forgot to hit the button to go live. But I just did. So, we are going to come back in. Anything? You see anything on your phone or your, what you call it yet?
No.
No.
It says the streaming is starting, so no picture, no audio either.
Huh. I wonder, can you on whatever your Twitch is, can you turn it off and come back in? Because we're about 7.5, almost 8 minutes into it. Hey, Jess Johnson, where are you, my friend? Michelle, are you here with us?
I got you. I see it now.
Are we live?
Yep.
Okay. So, I'm going to start in case Facebook is going to catch up. I have Facebook with us as well on this ride. So we're going to go from the beginning. Let's do a replay. Okay, Jess. You see us okay, Jess? Hi, and welcome to Matt Dupree's podcast. Today, like I said, we will be visiting with Nick Marchetti as he talks about his feelings since his top surgery and getting to know more about Nick and what his next steps in his transition will be. There are no right or wrong ways to transition, okay? Like I said, and I will repeat and reiterate, there's no right or wrong. You don't have to start here or start there, or you have to do this first, or this is the way it goes. No. You start, the first thing preferred is to build your network and your support network, and that's by getting your family and your closest people on board. Boom. Just like, again, I said in the beginning, we have had a come out story to our families at least once. If you're gay, straight, bi, whatever that is, or maybe not straight, you're gay, bi, lesbian, whatever, queer, whatever, you came out to your family or to someone, so you built that support network. You wanted them on board, right? That's what I would say would be a great place to start. Okay, some people start with T first, others start with their name changes, and others with surgical procedures, sex reassignment, top or bottom surgeries, whatever the case, right? There's no right or wrong way. But again, the most important first step is to have that conversation with your family and friends and start building your support group. Boom. We cannot stress that enough, how important that is. Okay? And give them, and you know, I'm guilty, Nick. I appreciate, I have learned a lot with you over the recent weeks that you and I have had conversation, and we have been talking, because I made the biggest mistake by expecting them to get it right away, right? And didn't let my family grieve, right? Because there's a grieving process that also comes along in this transition. And believe it or not, you will also grieve. Because I had to grieve the loss of someone I had known myself to be for all those years. 52 years. That's more than half a century of living as that. Now, my sister and I, and I'm just going to say this because this happened recently after I wrote all this up. But she was upset with me, and the first thing people want to do is they want to attack you in a way that's going to hurt you. And she knew how to hit me below the belt, if you will, and called me a little girl pretending to be a boy. And my response to her was, you kind of have that half right, but here's the difference. I am a boy and a man who had to pretend to be a girl or a woman for 52 years. But thank you for acknowledging that and giving me the opportunity to let you know what that was. It's reverse. So it's hurtful, yes. And unfortunately, it happens, and we're going to do a podcast. Nick and I Nick's going to be my what did I say? My co-host, right? We're going to get
That's
to,
right.
Nick's got a lot to say. I'm just going to finish my little part here, and we're going straight on over to Nick. But, so, guys, give your family and friends time after you have that conversation to take that all in, right? To process it and to understand it. Let them go through the grief that comes with the loss of one so that they can be ready to welcome the rebirth as you begin to live your brand new life. Okay? And the life you're going to live new, true, and authentic. Period. On this follow-up podcast, I will share, I just did, my mistakes I made and how hard it is to backstep, right? Once it happens. I wanted them to get it right. Get the pronouns right, you know? And I rushed into that and didn't give them that time to process it and understand it. And in doing that, it put a wedge, if you will, obviously, between me and my sister. And so that's the mistake I made, okay? And backstepping is very hard, let me tell you, especially with something of this magnitude. This ain't something small, right? It's also funny how they can accept you as a lesbian. I'm like, but, you know, to live your life is a no. So we're going to follow up the mistakes. But today we are doing this follow-up with Nick. But before we begin, let's get the disclaimer out of the way. I nor Nick are psychologists, psychiatrists, or therapists of any kind. Nor do we have any educational background in those fields. Right? We have none of that. I am, however, an expert on my own life and the many experiences I have had throughout. So guys, so I could shut up, have a sip of my drink, and puff on this. help me welcome Nick Marchetti. Whew, that's a lot. How's it going, Nick? Welcome back.
It's going well, thank you.
So how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well.
Yes. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
lots of euphoria.
Aha! Tell me about the euphoria. Oh, I love it. It's my favorite part.
My gosh, when you live with so much dysphoria, the euphoria feels even greater than it sounds. Uh, yeah, I can't describe it. It's better than any drug I've ever partaken.
Correct, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what? And your smile right here. Capture the smile, folks. Because it tells that story. I feel you euphoria as well. Because I know. Go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something. It's really something. The feeling is something that I've never experienced before, obviously, and it's even greater than I thought that it was going to be. Our brains produce lots of chemicals when we're happy, and I feel like my serotonin levels through the roof all the time when I wake up and I realize that it wasn't a dream and I was able to do it, and those sandbags aren't there anymore.
See you later.
See you later.
Oh, that's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So tell us how you feel. Obviously, the euphoria. You just had the surgery, and let's go to that reveal. Let's
You want to jump right to that reveal, huh? You go right for the goods, huh?
Yeah. That's the good part.
The reveal was nerve-wracking when I went in because you don't know what to expect, and you know from our last podcast that I didn't have any knowledge of my surgeon's experience or how well she was going to do, so I was nervous to see the results. And it did take me a minute as they were doing the undressing for the nipple grafts and the bandages that were on. The physician's assistant had asked me if I would like to take a look.
Oh.
And my initial reaction was, no, not yet. And I didn't look. And
What?
she began to, yeah, no, I didn't look right away. She began to give me a full rundown of what she was seeing. And a lot of positivity. I didn't have any bruising like a lot of people have.
Right.
I had just a little bit of yellowing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably after the bruising.
Okay.
I probably had the bruise, obviously, for the first week. And then by the time I went in, it was 7 days. And the bruising had gone into a yellow color. And she began to give me a play-by-play of what she was seeing. She told me everything looks great. It's as expected. And then she went into the nipple grafts and said, after they take those, I can't remember what they're called, the little yellow things.
Yeah, little bulbs, right? Little yellow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's got some kind of medication. It's some kind of medication to
Yellow stuff.
Right, to help the nipples heal. It's basically like an antibiotic that is so that they survive. That's what I was told. I guess that's what it is.
Yeah, so she got there and she said, now this is where it gets a little bit hairy and it gets a little unnerving. They're going to appear dark and this is, it's not as pretty as the rest was. And I immediately looked down and she said, are you kidding me? You look when I tell you that it's, that it's not the best sight.
Oh no.
But of course I had to look.
Sure.
Which she tells me it's like a train wreck, right? You don't want to look, but you can't turn away.
Right.
So I looked down, and that's before I obviously stood in the mirror. Yeah, exactly. I was like, wow. It was. Yeah. It was just that. It was wow. And then she gave me the opportunity to stand up and look in the mirror. and I honestly couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I actually got to see the chest that I see uh, every day in my mind,
Mm-hmm.
and it come to life. And I didn't have to smash him down. I don't know about you, but I did this thing all my life where I stood in a mirror and I would smash him down and look and see what would it look like if I was right, if it was right.
Oh, you
And
bet.
I didn't have to do it. I didn't have to do it. It was already there. And honestly, it didn't matter what the scarring, the yellow bruises. It didn't matter that my nipples were as dark as raisins. Um, it didn't matter.
All right.
What mattered was it was gone, and I felt, yeah, I felt overcome with emotion.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And I do know about smashing them down to see. I took many pictures too throughout my life as, I was smaller, so, I would lay a certain way and I'd get a good picture and I thought, not too bad, but still there, right? And still, well, with the nipple graft, the nipples are on men are placed differently than the nipples on women. So, people, this is hopefully going to help you, educate you about these things. But that is what they do when they do the free or the nipple graft, which is usually free part of the surgery. A lot of people don't choose to have the nipples. And for a moment, I wasn't going to keep my nipples. I was going to have them tattooed. But then I thought, nah, let's just go with it, you know. And I'm happy I did. I'm glad I did that. So, just some educational FYI for these folks that, so your nipples were as dark as raisins. How are they healing? Or how is it going on that part right now?
It's going well. There was a period of time where they started to get really red and look as though they were bleeding.
Okay.
And I was concerned. I had taken some pictures and sent them
Mm.
immediately to my surgeon. And when she heard that there was blood, she actually was like, "This is good news.
Oh,
That means that the bleeding, they are alive. The blood is coming through."
good.
Um, yep. So
Yep.
everything's looking good right now. They're not as dark as they were,
Right.
and I was told that that dark stuff will fall off as a scab, and it will reveal a very tender pink
Yeah.
skin.
Yep. It's and depends. Like mine was weird too. The scabbing,
Yeah.
and I just let it do its thing. I didn't want to look at it, touch it. I'd take my baths and showers and stuff, and I'd be like, I was very careful, right? But
Hmm.
she's right. It will be like a pink, maybe. At one point, it looked like one of them cows, little coloring. The pink with some dark, like it was weird. I have pictures.
Pigment.
Yes, and I think I sent you some of the pictures. But
Yeah.
as they healed, then they heal fine. And that you have
Yeah.
blood, that's your nipples are alive, and it's needing that to keep it alive, like we do.
Yep.
So, what was the worst part for you? What was the
The worst part
of
of the surgery, or as far as recovery?
Let's go both. Let's answer one and then. So.
Okay, so for surgery, the worst part was this was my first surgery, like I told you, and I was very concerned about the anesthesia. I didn't know how I was going to respond with the anesthesia. I don't like being nauseous at all, so I was worried about that. And my mom has a history of being combative when she's under, so I was worried about that. So I think that was the worst part, was the nerves. And what's interesting is that just like they say, what you see on TV is not what happens in the operating room. They wheeled me in, and I was nervous, and they surrounded me, and they got my body onto another bed, and with my help, of course, got me on the other bed, and they started prepping me, and then all of a sudden, my anesthesiologist disappears behind me,
Oh,
and he begins to talk about my diet. Very intrigued with my diet, wanted to talk. Well, I thought he was intrigued by it. I think it was a tactic. Uh, he began to talk about my diet. Yep, exactly. I couldn't see him at all. I could see my nurse that was right next to me and engaging in the conversation with us. And all I remember is saying something about broccoli, and I was done. All of a sudden, everything got real
foggy.
woozy. Yeah, foggy and whooshy, and I thought, what the heck? Because when I woke up, I was like, wait a minute, they didn't put the mask over my face. They didn't make me count. None of that. That.
Yeah. Yeah.
That. So
we'll get you interested in something, and boom, put a little shot in you, and
exactly. So
you're waking up in recovery room.
Yeah, and I actually enjoyed that because honestly, I thought about it, and the anticipation when they put that mask over your face, I can imagine counting to however you can make it, would be very nerve-wracking and may cause more anxiety than what they did for me. So I appreciated it, and honestly, my biggest fear was the easiest part.
There you go. So your biggest fear was the nausea and combativeness, because a lot of things we inherit from our families or our parents. But you didn't have any nausea, none of that at all.
Nope. So I woke
That's
up.
Awesome.
Yeah, I woke up and they had placed these things behind my ears that were like a Dramamine.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I woke up, and instantly when I did wake up, I felt really quick, 3-4 seconds of nausea, and then it was gone. I didn't have any nausea at all after that, and I felt fine. It was really odd. It was like nothing happened. Like I took a 5-minute nap, and I was done. I was not nauseous. I wasn't dizzy, and I felt really good. I felt like I just had a nap.
That's awesome. There it is, folks. That's what it is. The surgery is a very easy surgery. Like I said, the easiest surgery I've ever had. And I've had a few. So, quite a few. And getting ready to have more. But it's part of our life and our transition. And then some is just part of life and injuries and things like that. That I'm sure a lot of our audience people can relate with. And hey, and welcome all you folks who's coming in. We appreciate you showing up and showing support. So now, before I ask, hold on, I gotta. So now, what was the best part? We just talked about what you felt was the worst part, and that fear was quickly at ease. The way they came in and handled that process. So what was the best part so far with this?
I would say the best part is waking up knowing that you did it and you had the courage to do it. And when you woke up, you knew it was done, and you knew that you would no longer see that anymore when you look in the mirror. Yep, that was the best part. So I would have to say just knowing that it was done and you did it. And it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage to go under elective surgery. A lot.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So I think that was the best part. And that's as far as the surgery goes. And then, the recovery itself. I think the worst part about recovery for me has been I'm very independent by nature.
Okay.
And I think a lot of that is not only who I am, but it's also a defense mechanism from passed, and like I said, I'm very independent, and letting people do things for me
Mm.
has not been easy.
Uh-oh.
Um, yeah, um, stubborn, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that hasn't been easy, and I think that's been the hardest part. Is staying down for a long time as well, because live a very um, fast, busy life before
Okay.
surgery, and I don't get a lot of time
Right.
to myself. And so this has been incredible amount of downtime.
Right. So is this a
So
long? This is the longest period of time you've had to be like home, away from work, and things like that in your normal activity. And you know, this isn't one of my questions, but now that you brought it up, tell us about Nick. Tell us what a day with Nick, any day of the week, is like for you. What you do, what are your activities? Tell us, take us through your day, one day.
um, well, I live pretty far from my job. I do a heavy commute from Hollister, California to the Silicon Valley. Um,
So how far
as
is
I,
that?
it's about a 54-mile commute.
Hey.
In traffic, it runs you about hour and a half, 2 hours one way.
And with the gas prices, holy moly!
Yeah, yeah. So that's where I start my day. I start my day with usually an hour and a half to 2 hour commute into work. I'm
Okay,
an operations account manager for a tech company in the Silicon Valley, as I mentioned on our first podcast.
right,
Um, it's very demanding. It's fast. It's ever changing. Security
wow,
is not what it used to be. Obviously,
right.
um, since 9/11, it's been challenging. Um, and so I work sometimes short days. Majority of the time, I work long days.
Okay,
Um, so I'm in Santa Clara for most of the day. I get back on the road to go home
okay.
at around 4 or 5 o'clock. I'm in traffic for another 2 hours.
Mm.
Yep, get home around 7
Ugh.
o'clock.
Wow.
Yep,
From an
yep.
early
So
morning start, what time you take off usually?
it depends. If I have to be in early, I'll leave around 7 a.m.
Okay,
If it's a regular day, I can leave around 8:30 and get in by 9:30.
okay,
And that's usually if I leave late, there's no traffic. But if
right.
I leave early in the morning, I'm on the road at 7 a.m. and I'm going till 9 a.m.
Wow.
Yeah. Um,
Uh,
so get
tough.
home around 7 p.m. and start my night. Work out,
There you go.
eat.
Mm.
Yep. Work out, eat, shower, catch up on, whatever's in my phone.
Yep.
Me time for half an
Me
hour.
blowing up your phone.
um,
Oh my goodness. Sorry, buddy.
and and then it's off to bed, and I do it all again.
Wow.
There's not much time in between.
I see that. Wow. Well, we all know Nick leads a busy life, and work is takes up at least 12 or more hours of his day, and then in a 24-hour period, that does leave very little time. You checked out. There you go. Very little time for Nick to be able to enjoy or have his own personal time. This is my personal time where I get to do podcast, and I want to continue. I need to really stay on a schedule, but my schedule at work has just changed, Nick, and so I'm so thankful that it's going back to what it was instead of that short bid. I was thankful it was a short bid so that I don't have to stick to it. It changes tomorrow. Thank God. I go back to my normal schedule, and now I could, excuse me, get back on schedule here where I want to continue doing podcast Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Nick and I will we'll discuss what's the best day and time for him to join me as my co-host, and we have a lot of information to divulge in when it comes to this, and then other topics as well we're going to dive into. But now, before I had asked you about your support network, right? On our last video, or our last podcast, but we didn't go into into depth with it. Excuse me, folks. So, Nick, can you tell us how your mom and dad are doing with your coming out as trans?
Good question. I would say for the majority of the reaction has been positive.
Awesome.
There's obviously the shock of it, which is odd when you, in the grand scheme of things, if you really know me, it shouldn't be a shock.
Right.
But I think that a lot of times as parents, they wear blinders a lot of the times. They perceive us as what they want to perceive us as. And that goes not just for, gender identity, but that goes for anything.
Sure.
Your mother and father can see no wrong sometimes and can see no struggle, and they don't want to see those things. It's just the way it is. But the majority has been a positive reaction. Dad had, a few choice dad things to say.
Okay.
And then the last thing he says was, well, I guess it's only fitting. You have more hair on your legs than I do.
Oh. Say, wait up. Hold on. Well, Dad, you stop shaving, you'll catch up.
Right. Exactly. So,
Love it.
like I said, nevertheless, it's been a positive reaction. I had an interesting conversation with my mom just about 2 days ago.
Okay. Tell us about it.
She called me and she was crying.
Oh, no.
And she told me that she had reached out to my aunt and my uncle, two on her side that know me and are close with me when I was younger. Not so much now as an adult, but close enough. She had reached out to them and had asked them how they're handling the change and how they're handling my decision to do what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And they told her that, it is what it is. Nick's Nick, and regardless of Nick's gender identity, Nick's Nick at the end of the day. And my mom, I think, was looking for somebody to be having a hard time, so she could feel not so alone, which I get. It's isolating feeling when you feel like you're suffering in silence or alone. So she ended up reaching out to my stepsister as well and talked to my stepsister and asked my stepsister how she was feeling. And again, same reaction, Nick's Nick. And, there's no difference. And then she calls me, and like I said, she was crying, and she told me that she's having a hard time. She's having a hard time not because she's not accepting of it. She's having a hard time because she can't get the pronouns right. She can't stop calling me she rather than he. And she's having a hard time with just the smallest thing you could ever think of. She said, I can't get behind you having a beard.
Oh, not yet.
Right. Not yet, but and I think that's expected. It's not something you've ever seen me with.
Sure.
Even though it's something that I do daily now, because I'm a hairy individual. I shave already. Little does she know.
You should say it's Italian.
Exactly.
It's the Italian gene.
Right, exactly. So, mom's Mexican and dad's Italian, so I'm naturally hairy.
Okay. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so she's struggling. She's struggling with her being as supportive as she can and doing the right things and saying the right things. And what does that look like? And she actually reached out for some guidance and some therapy and asked me if I had any avenues that she could go for support. And I sent her automatically to the Facebook groups that are out there because she does spend a lot of time on Facebook. And what better place? It reaches millions of people.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so she was really happy to get accepted into some groups.
Good.
But like I said, it's been positive for the majority with mom and dad.
That's good. So how did you react or respond when mom was having this heart to heart, heartfelt conversation with you, and with the confusion that does come, right? We're not making light of this at all, folks. We understand the process, believe us. We have lived it silently for however many years. So, but to mom's reached out to you heartfelt in tears, and now you have to respond in some kind of way. What was your response to what that conversation was happening in that conversation?
Very sympathetic because, like I told you, I understand that this isn't just my journey. It's everybody that is in my life, their journey as well. And I was very sympathetic to her. I don't like to hear my mom cry. I don't like to hear her upset. So naturally, I reassured her that everything's going to be okay. Another one of her fears was that our bond isn't going to be the same. And I reassured her that it will be the same.
Well,
And
believe it or not, a mother and a son's bonds are even closer than, because remember, girls in tradition get married and become the daughter-in-law, and then the sons get married and mom gains a daughter. So when daughter gets married, mom loses a daughter, right? But when son gets married, she then gains a daughter. So honestly, personally, my relationship, I have a son. He's 35. Well, you heard him in here getting on me earlier. But I love my son, and I wanted a boy. That's all I ever wanted. So besides my transition, right? But so it takes time and understanding, and then just let them, again, we're all in a continuum. And mom is too, and so is dad and our family, and we can't, like I did, try to rush it in. We just let them, whatever time they need, you give them that, and allow them to make those mistakes. They will. My mother does it all the time, even though me and my mother have had this conversation back in around 2011, or maybe, no, it was earlier than that, 2008, 2009, we had this conversation. And my mother was the one who reached out to me on a phone call while I was over the road and said, crying, heartbroken, and said, I want you to live your true life, and I need you to tell me if you would go the full distance, because if you feel that's something you need to do, I will help you and I will support you, and I'll help you make that happen so you could live happy. And I said, and back then, I just couldn't. And reasons have been disclosed before in another podcast, but I was married and to my ex-wife, and she would have nothing to do with it. So, went back into, don't talk about it, it's not happening, can't live it, forget it, right? Give up. At the time, maybe early 40s, maybe, I don't remember, somewhere in early 40s, late 30s, and now I got closeted up again. That comes with rejection. That's what we get living this life. That rejection we retract, we go back in to ourselves. So when we give them that time, they're going to have to process it. Give them the time to process it. It's okay. We have had years to process it, right?
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
Now, let them catch up. Like that child said, it's just taken you a long time to catch up. Oh, it gives me chills. If you've never, my friend, seen Trans on Apple TV, I will always go to that documentary and suggest, check it out. It is so beneficial. It helps in many ways. Have your parents watch Trans. And just the first story with that little girl will blow their fucking minds. It is amazing. And I watch it. It's on my phone. I can watch it wherever I want. I love it. Anyway, and that the parents in that story are incredible. The amount of love and everyone has confusion surrounded by this topic. That's why we're going to continue to discuss this topic and to bring understanding and educate whatever we have to offer. Our true feelings, yours. Just because Nick and I are both trans doesn't mean Nick and I have the same had the same journey or had the same experiences. But together, when we could discuss our journeys and our experiences, whether ours is different or the same, it helps other people who may be on one side or the other have that understanding. Or dang, Nick just brought some great points up. My family, how am I going to respond? Am I going to respond like Mo, who pushed it, forced it? Or am I going to take it easy like Nick, who smoothed in there? There's a comparison. Right there's the difference, right? And that little bit of difference, there's a big difference, is huge when we're talking about our support people, the people we love the most. And Nick, I could tell you're such a great soul and a great energy. I knew that. And your family, that you can, articulate and to have that patience and understanding. You're an amazing person. I'm so thankful we're here today and that you and I are now bound by the transition, the podcast, and further along as we go. So thank you for telling us about your parents and how that all went. And you mentioned all your friends are still on board and they're there for support. And is that still the case? All your friends are still hanging tough. Now, are a lot of those friends female or lesbian, or can you tell us a little bit about that?
I think my friend circle majority is heterosexual, male and female. I do have a small percentage of gay and lesbian folk, but I think the majority is heterosexual, male and female, and predominantly male.
Good. I don't know about you, can you tell me, I feel closer or building more lasting and lasting friendships and bonds with my male colleagues, the guys I work with. I have several who we have same interests, right? We feel the same, think the same, and and I was going to get to that earlier when you said about you don't like to be dependent on people. That's because we have a male brain, right? We are independent individuals and have always been pretty much, I take care of me. I don't need you to help me do nothing. I don't need nothing from you. I got this. But when we're in that vulnerable spot, it's hard for us to say, I need somebody to help me out here. I don't really want to ask, and I really don't want that level of help, but you just had a medical procedure done. And no matter how easy the process was, it's still a surgery. And you still have limitations. You know, you cannot lift, pick things up, things like that we'll get to. So you do need help. And for a man, it's hard, right? And that's a question I want to ask you. But after we talk about your friends, so your friends are predominantly male, and you feel, do you feel you have a stronger, better connection because you're a man? You know?
I think the connections are different with male and female. Do I feel it's necessarily greater or tighter? I don't think so. I think I have, even with my female friends, have very tight bonds. I'm very, very sensitive. I'm very empathetic. So I think I find myself really resonating with both genders.
Okay.
And to me, it's a blessing to have that. And honestly, I think this goes back to what I always say. I'm glad I wasn't born cis male. Reason being, I believe I have qualities that I wouldn't have had I had been born in the right body.
Okay.
I think that I was born exactly the way I was supposed to be born. However, we needed to correct some physical anatomy to match. But I think that, like I said, I'm very sensitive. I'm very empathetic. There's a lot of things that I resonate with women, and there's a lot of things that I resonate with men. Although I do understand what you're saying as far as being able to maybe relate
Right.
differently with men, and I do relate with men and the way they feel and think. Sometimes I get frustrated with them though because the sensitive and vulnerable side comes out, and I'm just like, sometimes the way they handle their relationships, I'm just like, Jesus, if you would just do this and just admit what you feel, it's okay. You might have a successful relationship, showing who you are and your feelings, because I think a lot of times men, they have this idea that they have to be a certain way and they can't be sensitive and they can't show their weaknesses.
Right. Makes them a sissy. We don't want to be
Yeah,
no sissy. Right?
exactly. And that's the sad part about society is that we created that, honestly. As humans, we created that on men. And I think that that goes along the lines of men have a lot of mental health issues that are ignored because they suffer in silence again.
Yep.
So as far as resonating with men and the way they think, I understand it. And but yeah, again, to answer your question, I would say I resonate with both genders very well.
Okay. I don't. I try, and I have tried for my whole life to fit into that female role mentally, and I just couldn't. And I have apologized to past friends, and even my best friend, who everyone knows, lives in Denmark, Copenhagen, Denmark, and has just recently been here to visit, and we've had struggles, right? Because I've known, and we have been tight for 22, 23 years, and just I hear you, Jess. It's difficult to navigate with that. Where I'm not. It is interesting how we are so different, and even Deborah and I like shopping together and those things. I'm one who wants to get in, and I want to get out. I don't want to touch everything. I don't have to go down every aisle. I know what I'm here for, and I go to it, and I want to get out the door as fast as I can. And, well, girls are different. Girls want to touch things. They want to hold it and pick it up and look at it and smell it and whatever. I'm just so totally, I have zero patience for that. So, unfortunately, that has always been my problem and will continue to be my problem. And so when I talk to my guys at work and they have, my wife drugged me to the shop and out shopping this weekend. It was a miserable 2.5 hour waste of my day and blah blah. I'm like, I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you mean. So I get that. I relate more to men, but I love to be around my wife, obviously, and my whole life I've always been around a lot of girls. So, but like, so I did go back and apologize to friends all the way back to when I was 14 years old and said, I want to apologize to you because you wanted a best friend I couldn't be, that best girlfriend to go to the mall and to go, try on dresses and things. I just wasn't, and shoes and high heels and those things. I tried, I did, but I just couldn't. It's just not who I am. Me and Jess, I know my buddy Jess. I know all about it, my friend. So, Nick, you got one up, but you are certainly right, and you hit it the nail on the head when you said you were happy to have been, because now we, as trans, we can relate to both genders, right? Although all my life I was able to relate to the male more than the female. Nonetheless, I have always been male in the brain, but born in a female body and gave birth, carried a child, and gave birth. I tell the guys, yep, you can call me anything you want, but I'm probably one of the strongest men you ever see at this job site, because I don't know any of you who could have pissed out a baby of 7.14 pounds, 21 and a half inches. So let's, it is what it is. I'm not one-upping anyone. I just know what it's like to have lived that life, to have menstrual cycles to go through. I even went through the menopause. I know what that's like. So when my wife says about hot flashes and things like that, I know all about it. Not any guy I work with who, no cis guy, can sit there and tell their wife, I know what you're going through. I've been through it too. Boom, out. You didn't do it. You might go through some midlife crisis where you can't, you may have to take a pill to get yourself, ready to have time with your wife. But that's about all you're going to get. Nothing like we had to go through in our life and our experience. Now, and you mentioned that. So now we talked about your job. You told us that was one of the questions. We're going to skip on out of there because you told us about your job and what you do, your commute, and how your day is. Do you want to talk more about your job? You want to? Or are you good?
No, that could be another podcast.
There you go. It'll be an interesting one too, I'm sure. I'd like to know about that stuff. Okay, is there anyone at your job or around in your life, wherever, whether it's a neighbor, somebody at your convenience store you stop at, we all make friends somewhere. Is there anyone that makes you feel uncomfortable or threatened, and that you wouldn't want them to know about your transition? Because this is a real thing.
It definitely is, and I wouldn't necessarily say threatened. I don't feel threatened by anybody, luckily. However, I do feel nervous, and a little bit of anxiety to come out to an individual that I know very well. We have a very good working relationship. He actually is the client that I work for. He pays my bills.
Oh.
And not only that, he's a very he's a really big alpha male. Very big alpha male. And when I say big, I mean big in personality, and I mean big in the physical sense.
Wow.
He's around 6'6",
Holy moly.
guy. Yep, played semi-pro baseball. Very handsome, very distinguished man. And I believe he's around 58 years old. like I said, he's very distinguished, very handsome, very tall, dark. He's got everything going for him. He's got the typical privilege that any man of his stature would have.
Okay.
So he doesn't relate very much with struggles or having to work extra hard for what we have. Um, yeah, and it's gonna be something. I went out on leave,
Right.
and I'm gonna come back with something missing off my chest.
Right.
And yep. And he's been wondering, and he's asked, and he's reached out since I've been out on leave. Like I said, we do have a very good working relationship.
Well, that's a good bonus.
It is a good bonus, and I'm hoping that
Doesn't
takes precedence
change.
over anything. And I believe that not only is it a good working relationship, he respects me as an individual.
Good.
And
So now this person, he pays. So is he? You said he's your client, but is he a client that you stay with throughout your career, or at some point you're going to move away from him, or how? I don't understand. No, he's.
Yep, he's permanent. He's going to be a permanent fixture in my life unless we lose the contract, or unless I decide to change sites. But as of right now, I'm hoping that this is long term, and it probably will be long term. It's a really good fit for me.
Okay.
Contract securities, it's a different breed. Contract security is basically a company reaches out. They ask for security services. They send an operations manager, account manager like myself out to manage the whole entire security staff
Okay.
and all of the operations. And that's basically what I am, and he's the client. He is the guy that is behind the company that I'm servicing,
Okay.
and he goes to me and I go to him for everything. His needs are my responsibility to meet as far as on the security standpoint.
Okay.
And he will be a permanent fixture in my life as long as I'm there, and he will be somebody that I deal with on a constant basis,
Sure.
day in and day out.
Well, I'm glad we got to this, because I also want to let you know to rest easy, my friend, because we have laws and rules in place that protect us on workplace situations, right? And what I had to do was I wrote remember when I went through my transition, I was out of work for 9 months from a car accident, and it was during COVID, so I had to wait for doctors to be able to see me, and to be, because they weren't doing elective surgeries, not back surgeries, nothing. I had to wait. So in that wait, I began my transition. So I come back to my bosses. I'm coming back. I didn't have top surgery yet, but it was already in the works. And I go back to work in August, right toward the end of August. And my name had changed. So my name, my gender marker had already changed. I was on testosterone for now 4 or 5 months. Let's see, 4 months. I started to get a little hair, and my voice started to drop, get deeper. Some changes began to happen already. So I had to have this conversation. So I wrote a letter, and I sent it to my boss, who checked in on me every single week. I emailed him along with my other people of leadership, and let them know this is who I am. And luckily, we had already had conversation the year before, and when I did a local radio interview here in Phoenix about my transition, or me being trans, with my wife and my doctor. So I had to get FedEx's or my company FedEx permission to put that information out there. And so they gave me just a little, what to say, just a little write-up, what was appropriate, what, because we have attorneys in place, right? Every company does. And if you're going to put their information out there, it's got to be very short and boom. So they gave me something to read, and I read that, and that was all we spoke of on the radio interview. Now, when I'm coming back to work now a year or so later, I have to write this letter because I have to think about bathrooms, right? I can't go in a girl's bathroom. Can't go in the guys. I work with these guys. I have respect for these guys. How I got to understand how it's going to make them feel. You got to take their feelings into consideration, and you also have to be respectful of their privacy, right? And their comfort, and also yourself. And always be mindful that you are in a vulnerable position when it comes to those things out in public. So you handle yourself, and that'll be another podcast you and I are going to get to. It's the way you handle yourself. And a lot of our trans people have these concerns and fears. But at some point, Nick, and it's probably going to come sooner than later, you will have to have that conversation, whether it is text or an email. And because if we're talking name change, gender ID, you're going to start getting hair on your face, your voice is going to deepen, all these things. They have to, you want them, it not to come as a surprise, right? Because then they will be able to, okay, you sent the email, it gives them time to go into their codes of ethics and, all those things, and start implementing things that may not be available for you right now. But that's their duty to be able to, okay, if you have a shared women's bathroom or men's bathroom where there's multiple stalls, we have to make provisions for you to be able to have a private bathroom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's just a single stall and they have a woman's picture and a man's picture, they have to take that out and put a unisex picture on both those stalls. And that's what the company did where I work for. That's what they had to do. I ended up having to have access to, because all the bathrooms that had, for us, for the employees, were multiple stalls. So neither would work for me. So they had to give me access on my badge to let me into office areas where they had single stalls and they had unisex pictures up there. So just going forward, my friend, you have rights, and don't fear, because they can't violate your rights. Hopefully this man, this person you work with, you guys have a great working relationship. Hopefully that respect of what you do and what your job is takes, like you said, precedence over who you are, your personal appearance. You're clean, you look good. I'm sure you represent the company well. You're well groomed and things like that. You're not a slob. You show up to work, you do your job. I think you will be fine. So try not to fear that. I know we have those burdens, though, folks. You guys are hearing this. These are the things we have to understand, and the fears of losing our jobs. A lot of people don't take that step because of losing their jobs. But now, mainstream, now we are protected under Discrimination Act, right? We're also being followed by doctors and surgeons, so that means we're also protected under the HIPAA Act, right? So, do you have any trans friends close to you that you can speak with or share experience with that you cannot do with other folks?
I do. I do. I know this great guy, very charismatic, very knowledgeable, very understanding, and his name is Matt.
Thank you, my friend. Me? This Matt? Thank you, my
That
friend.
Matt.
So,
Yep.
outside of me, you have any trans friends around you anywhere close?
Not close. No.
So I have a couple here. Can't get them together. You know, sad part is we don't come together. Uh, hope that I even have a trans group on Facebook. It's flatlined. It's on life support right now. I mean, it is very hard. It's just, I guess, like anything else. It's hard to get people together. They want to. I want to do a big camping trip, with the guys. 4 or 5, however many we could get. I don't care where it's at. Let's plan a weekend, once late spring, early summer, whatever, and let's just go take our tents, go hang out and spend a weekend sharing experiences and stories. That's how we grow, and that's how we make these perfect memories and lasting bonds and lasting friendships and connections. I am glad that you and I are bonding and strongly bonding with our conversations, our experiences, and just putting information out there. I think you have insight, and I think you also have so much to offer, so much enlightenment, and so much that people want to hear and know. You're interesting, and when you're quiet and you have that very calm, smooth. You see me, I'm all over the place. A nervous wreck. But you're very, smooth, and that's why I think you and my dynamic on doing, you co-hosting would be perfect. But we're going to collaborate. Today you're getting interviewed. But going forward, we're going to collaborate. Like clowns, you hear those funny guys on the radio. But we're going to collaborate with education and information and experience. And then one day, soon, you're going to come out here and we're going to hang out for a weekend or however long you're going to come. And then really sit here and do a face-to-face, elbow-to-elbow, we're live and we're here kind of interview to have fun.
Let's do
and
it.
Kick it, right?
Yes.
So, Nick, okay, so you said you don't have many around you, but you do have other access to, whether it's on Facebook or trans community centers, things. You have resources available to you to help educate families of trans people. So all that is, like you said earlier, which I just kind of got to that, but that your mom, you helped her find the support groups for trans parents or parents of trans children. Let me make it right. That's great resources, and I encourage people to take advantage of those resources, because if you're feeling alone, go on to a place where they are talking about it around the clock, because they have questions and they're helping each other. They're helping and encouraging each other and helping each other understand that I'm not the only parent who has a child that's trans, right? So it's a good thing you did that. That's what helping educate people is all about right there. So how is it important? How important is it to you that people get educated on transgender people?
Very important. Very important. Had I not had the education that I had, I don't think that I would have done it. It's to me, and just like you, it's late in our life, and that's because there was no education in our growing up. And honestly, I think the more education we put out there, the greater success of the children that are coming up today, that have and feel the same way we do. So I think it's greatly important. And just like anything, it's going to evolve. Things are going to evolve. Things that people want to know are going to be different. They're going to want deeper dives into certain aspects of our transition. And it's not going to be as surface as it is now. I mean, it's very, I wouldn't say accepting right now, but there is a lot of resources, like you said. And I think that the questions right now are very surface level.
Right.
And I think that in the future, there are going to be questions that our parents ask or our friends ask that are going to be deep dive questions.
Right.
And the more we put out there, the less uncomfortable our youth has to feel in answering those when they might not want to or even know the answers themselves.
Right.
Because there's things that I can't answer either, in depth on things, just because we may not be feeling that yet, but it might be a feeling that comes. So
Oh.
in you see, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know exactly what lines I'm on right now.
I do.
And the thing is that we have to. Education's always going to evolve, and it's always going to be ever changing. And the desire and the knowledge, it's I hope my hope is that there's going to be a greater need for it. So it's important for me.
There is a great need already, but like you said, as it evolves, as we become, like they said, over 1.7 million people in the United States and millions more around the world are trans. So there is a great need to educate now, and especially like you just mentioned, more so for our youth. And if I could have taken myself right now back to when I was 3 or 5, the difference my life would be. That's why I said that trans movie hit me so deep here, because that child articulated herself in a way that will blow your mind. Like, how does a 6-year-old child say these things, even know these things? How does it? And it just resonated, and it echoes in my mind every day that these people, young people, they're well in an advanced situation than we were.
Oh yeah.
Because now, if parents have these questions, my child acts different and weird. I think she's a tomboy. They're afraid, or maybe uneducated, to take that discussion to another level. To say to your child, you're not coercing your child, you're communicating and getting to the heart of the matter. Child, like my mother, if my mother would have said to me young, which I yelled it at the top of my lungs at my dad with some choice words behind it at only 3, wanted to, I was bad. I just could not stand that. Him saying that to me, that I was a girl. How dare you, right?
Yeah.
So, but if the parent would have dug deeper, my mother would have said, why do you think you're a boy, right? And had I been able, maybe not, to articulate like that child did, maybe today would be different. But here we are. I can't go back. All I could do is go forward. And like I said, we have our youth ahead of us. And that's why we're here today. For the youth, for their families, so that we could build education, or bring about education, information, understanding, and hey, ask the hard question. You may not want to hear the answer, but for your child's progress in life, to live a healthy, somewhat normal as we can be, life, ask those questions, and then take action, right? And that's going to be another one coming up. You and I talked about that earlier. about a message I've received from a grandparent of a trans child that's going to be coming. Guys, you got to stay tuned for that. It's a really heavy one, and it was really great. I had a great opportunity to help and to offer feedback and understanding, and also let them know that there were resources available for them, and that I'd like to follow the child through his transition or through the steps, and they were, mom and grandmother was very on board. So good information, folks. I got plenty of those stories to share. Nick and I is going to collab with that at a different time. Okay, so before you came out trans, what was your life like? Got a lot of questions for you. Do you want to take a break before we answer that, or do you want to keep rolling on? Because we could always... Okay, because we could take a short break and freshen up, whatever you want to do. Because I still have... maybe 2 more questions. Okay, that's fine. So, before you came out trans, what was your life like?
Ooh. What aspect? What aspect of life?
Okay, let's talk about the...
Because that's a wide open question.
It is very wide open. So, well, we already talked about your work, right? So, we know your family life, right? So let's talk about your personal, Nick's life, Nick's dating life, Nick's everyday life with. So, what was it like? What was your life like?
If I had to sum it up in one word, it would be confusing. Especially when you talk about dating. What do you date? You know, who do you date? Do you date you date a lesbian? You date a heterosexual female?
Right.
You date who is going to accept you? Yeah, so I would say it was a confusing life, confusing in all aspects, because from a child, who do you play with? Do you play with the girls? Do you play with the boys?
Right.
What kind of bike can I get? Can I get the bike with the straight bar? Or do I have to get the bike with that slanted bar?
Right.
So it's confusing. It's very confusing, and dating was a very difficult one for me. I just was educated a few years back from my ex-wife about being pansexual. For my experience, dating pansexuals is right for me. Pansexual is hearts, not parts, and
Right.
it was fitting. It fit perfectly, but that was just a few years ago, Matt. So confusing. My life was very confusing.
So, were you legally married, you and this woman?
We were not legally married. We did
Okay.
have a ceremony, a really, really pretty ceremony on the beach, family and friends. Yeah.
Very nice.
And we're very good friends now to this day. She's a very, very important part of who I am, and actually, she's a very important part of my transition.
Awesome.
She really gave me a lot. She gave me a lot of self-acceptance, and she showed me that a woman will love me, and will love me as a man, and treat me as a husband, and
That's
and honestly, if I could go into a little bit more of me personally, I'll be honest.
Sure. Go for it.
Intimacy was hard.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard, and honestly, my first real experience of being touched, or I wouldn't say my first experience of actually feeling somebody in my genital area was with her and being comfortable.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's huge. That is huge. I didn't realize how big it was.
Right.
But for a person to feel human in the intimacy part of life it's huge. It's
Yes, it
it's
is.
so it is, and you can easily feel, being us, you can easily feel not human in that situation. And it's because it doesn't match what we feel. But you know what I learned, Matt, is that it doesn't need to match down there for me right now.
Right.
Um, and that's what I was talking about. It's ever changing.
It
Um,
is so ever changing,
yep,
and
and this
especially
might
in that
change.
aspect. It.
Yes,
It.
yes. And it might change, Matt. It might. But right now, she taught me that what I had did not define me as a man, and it didn't make me less of a man. Be pleased, and that is honestly, it's huge. So I think that, to answer your question, yeah, the hardest part, or who I was, and what my life like was before coming, it was confusing. It was really confusing, and it was tough, and everything was confusing, Matt. Everything.
Oh yeah. I. You took me to a place you see in my face right now where I get it. I know. So the touching and things were off limit.
Hmm.
And it's rough when you're with someone who wants to, reciprocate, and you are ashamed. Let's just
Hmm.
let's just be honest. You are ashamed
Hmm.
because here is one person, but all this is doesn't. It's not right. It's not aligned, and you play that part, right,
Hmm.
as that male, but then when you're revealed, it's humiliating, right? It takes everything away from your identity. It
Hmm.
is very difficult, and I made it a point to have that conversation in the beginning.
Hmm.
You know, um, it's tough, and yes, will things change? Um, yes. Um, Testosterone does some things to the body, right? And one of them is going to be growth down there. And so maybe the way that intimacy you were able to, you know, climax or whatever, even hard for me to talk about, as you can understand and see, that will change because things down there changed. And so, but you figure it out. You figure out what works for you. And it may take some time. But, yeah, that's a whole other topic. And I think you and I can have some conversation about it, but I get it. I know that confusion. And I still, even in my transition, like I said, from my waist up, it's euphoria. But from my waist down, it's dysphoria. So even taking a shower is uncomfortable, right? Because when you still have to clean your parts. And
Hmm.
so, you know, so that'll come. You and I know that's coming around March
Hmm.
6th. So, but we're going to do a podcast about that, and you will be the one interviewing me, my friend. So I get it, but you know what I appreciate about what you just said and I take in is that your ex is your friend, and that now is she, does, I know you said she's pansexual, which is a very interesting, and when I covered the LGBTQ for Pride Month, pan didn't really, we touched on it, but we got off of it. It's a very different. There's pan and the other one, but but is she gender neutral? Is she a non-binary, or is she just she and her?
She's she. Yep. She is she, her. Yep.
Right. So you had someone who had a level of understanding and reached you in a place, like you said, I went for the heart, not the parts. I love the heart, not the parts. And that is amazing, and that is like my wife, like Deborah. Deborah said two small words to me. As is. I love you as is. And she did say, it's the person, not the parts.
Yep.
Although I still feel that I have denied her when it comes to certain things because of me being a trans man. And because there's parts of me that are very much off limits, right? So it is tough having relationships and loving someone and letting them know how much you love them and you want to show all your affection and give all yourself to them, but just not this. You know, it does at some point take its toll on people, on a person, because we all want the whole person. I want all of you. And so, my friend, I understand, and I think that is just the way it is for us trans guys. So, and until we could figure out what's right, and maybe what's right for us to match and to have euphoria from the waist down, may not be what that partner you have wants. So that conversation has to be had, and it has to be honest. And at some point you have to say, there comes a time in our lives where we have to decide, you know, for ourselves what's best for us going through life. But honest. And sometimes that's tough. Put it like that. So I appreciate you telling me, and yeah, I've heard the pan community, you know, and we've talked about that. If you had to put a label on anyone, you know, I mean, I don't know, labels, I know it's what it is, but they are tough, right, to navigate. So what do you feel you've missed out on as you look back on your life?
Holy crap. Tons. Tons.
Prom, tuxedo.
Oh, God. Yeah. School. Let's start with school. I missed out on a lot in school. And PE. Everybody passes PE. I failed PE. Who fails PE? Well, I did, because I wouldn't dress down. You know? So, yeah, there's a lot that I missed out on. My mom was a lifeguard when I was growing up, and I wanted nothing more than to be on the swim team in school. I was an excellent swimmer. I would have loved to have gone places, but there was a problem, and the problem was I wasn't going to get into that bathing suit.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot, and it starts at school. There's a lot we miss out on, and then we get into my adult life, and you know, things. You're held back. In my professional life, I was held back a lot. There's things that I didn't pursue due to the fact that I wouldn't fit the mold, and firefighting being one of them.
Wow.
Sure, there's women firefighters. There is, absolutely. And
Right.
I was in the Conservation Corps, and I got to do controlled burns and stuff like that. And I saw women firefighters. However, there was this picture that I had in my mind that didn't fit how I would look or be in a firehouse. And so it was discouraging. It was discouraging to follow that dream
Oh,
and follow, follow those things. And let's not forget about, like, the small things, missed out on. I missed out on going to the bathroom a million times. My
right,
bladder is huge
right.
because, yeah, I had to hold it,
Yeah,
uncomfortably. So if you think about even just using something as small as using the bathroom, think about what that means. That means you held your bowel that you had to release,
right.
and there's conversations that you weren't engaged in because you're thinking about your bladder that's about to explode.
Exactly. I know. I just went
Yep.
through this the other day at work on Friday, which caused me problems the whole day. Um, that
Yep.
is so true. What people take for granted. Something that simple as just going to the bathroom. And now
Hmm.
that you're in this transition, it's probably going to get a little bit harder yet. Like I said, conversations will have to be had,
Yeah.
to make those provisions so that you don't suffer, right? And yeah, when you have to go to the bathroom, you can't fully
Mm.
take in a conversation or engage in one because, like you said, I need to go to the bathroom. And
Mhm.
my friend, it is just that. It's from the simplest of things that we're going to continue to have these conversations. You were going to say something else. What else you were going to just say? I'm sorry. Kind of cut it.
Oh, no, no, no. That's it, Matt. It's the smallest things that people take for granted, and literally as simple as just going to the bathroom. You miss out on a lot. You really do. You miss out on important conversations. You miss out on heartfelt moments. You also miss out on, even family events, Matt. Family
Yeah.
events. You're not comfortable.
No.
You're not comfortable to go to these events because you're going to be around a bunch of people that perceive you one way and you're not. And honestly, sometimes that can create animosity towards the person when it's not even their fault that they look at you like that. That's,
Right.
yeah, there's a lot we miss out on. And like you said, prom, tux, girlfriends. I was lucky. I did have a girlfriend all through junior high school and high school. So
Uh-huh.
I was lucky. I did get the high school sweetheart. I think that I'm blessed that I did. However, she was straight. So,
Right. Yeah.
very, very interesting, but I did get that experience, so I'm lucky for that. But I think we miss out on things from the tiniest little things to the big things, like in our professional careers and things of that nature. But there's millions we miss out on.
Tons. Yes, I missed out or denied myself uh, chances to promote, move up. Because, like you said, you know, I didn't have the confidence, right? Because I
Mhm.
wasn't in that. I did construction, my first career.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
then I'm a truck driver, so you know we've sold our and I own it. I have a construction business and it's mine, and I haven't. Be honest with you, I haven't done anything with it since the accident. But I'm working on some things now. I want to just focus on one thing, and and build it and start building that here in Arizona. But I have missed out on, when you're in that female body, and honestly, not to insult or hurt anyone, but what I have noticed is women really get shortchanged on the job sites, in the workforce, and even when they move into higher levels, positions, if there's a man above them, which generally there are, they're not. I don't know. My opinion and what I have seen on sites I've been on and work that I've done, they're not really completely taken 100% serious. And I also have noticed uh, that a lot of women, um, not all, but women that I have seen around, kind of use their, some sexual connotation to kind of get away with a few things. It's not everyone and it's not everywhere, but I've seen it. I've also seen the opposite of that with men, which is a whole other story. But you are going to begin HRT, or would you like to talk about that?
Yep, definitely going to start that. Like I said, I have my first appointment for the consult for that on the 27th of October.
Okay.
Again, starting in something new. There's questions, and
Good.
education. That's what it's about. And these are questions, they're answers that I don't have, but I'm sure that you're going to have some of my answers for me. But yeah, I hope to start it soon.
27th of October. That's
Yeah.
coming up. It'll be here before you know it. So, is that with a new doctor, or did you get your
new doctor?
Okay.
Yeah, it's with the new doctor, and the referral will go to my general physician for the testosterone. Yeah, I'm really excited.
Your
I'm
first
really
shot.
excited.
Whew. Heart's gonna
Yeah.
be beating 100 mile an hour.
Oh,
100.
tell me.
Heart's gonna be going. You're gonna be shaking. Deborah gave me my first dose, and in the thigh, and and again, euphoria. Questions?
Yeah, for sure. Lots of questions. I think obviously my first question is, did you physically feel testosterone, so to speak, go into your body? Did you feel anything?
No, I didn't like it. Like I said, Deborah injected me in the thigh, and that's the preferred place. And I felt the needle. Yeah, I felt.
Yeah.
I could feel when she pushed the syringe in, and when she pulled it out, we rubbed it in, and you can feel, beneath the skin, that you have something in there, a little knot, but you rub it in real good. The changes, though.
Yeah. Tell me about
feeling.
that.
Feeling
Physical-
it go in you, not so much. Not like, if they give you a shot to get dye in you and then you feel it go through your head and all that. No.
Yeah.
No, it's not that.
Okay.
So let's. Okay. I figured that's where we were going with that, but no, it's not that. It's not like it's gonna get injected in your thigh and all of a sudden your head's gonna be whoa. No, it's none of
Okay.
it. Just goes into your bloodstream and then it works its way through. And so what do you want to know? The changes?
Yeah, so I've heard a lot about again with the small things. Smells can be different. Oh, have you experienced that?
Yes. So remember, this is a chemical, right? It's a mind. It is mind altering chemical. So it will begin to you will begin to have some really funky odors. Let me tell you, your doctor will put you on probably more than likely, they want to get, it's called the fast track through puberty. So when you begin testosterone, you are now a 14-year-old boy going through puberty. In every aspect of puberty. Your face will get oily, you'll get zits, and depending on how well your skin was, or if you had a lot of zits when you were a child, that all plays into this. So if you were like me, I'd get one or two here and there. They weren't, it wasn't never bad. But your face gets oily, and that will come pretty quick. I could tell you within first few days, 4 days, I smelled different. It was funky. I had to change deodorants. I had to change body lotions. You know, certain soaps I used, I had to change. Colognes will even be different because of chemical, right? Now you have a different, I guess, chemistry or whatever. Now your estrogen level begins to drop, right? And testosterone begins to build. You don't lose estrogen, you gain testosterone. So what happens on a fast, just so you know, when they put you on this fast track, I don't know if you have menstrual cycles, but those will eventually stop. That'll stop. And all of a sudden, now the estrogen begins to drop, testosterone levels begin to increase. Decreased estrogen, increased testosterone. That's when you start getting oily skin, and you stink, and you sweat, and and your body has this weird, funky 14-year-old boy stink without deodorant. I'm telling you, get ready. So that's one big change. Then pretty soon, your voice will begin to drop. And probably, I would say I did record a lot of that, and I don't know how much Facebook's got here. They can't hear you, I just remembered, because I have you through the server. So they can't hear you, but they'll be able to I'll drop that in. But your voice will change. Probably within the first few weeks. It'll start dropping, lowering. Be ready, because your vocal cords start to tighten, and you're gonna feel like you got a sore throat. Your throat's gonna bug you. You don't have COVID. You have testosterone, and your voice is now changing, and your vocal cords are tightening. So that's what's happening to you now. When you get to that, then my son's on. Hey, what's up? See, okay, so in your menstrual cycle, that's gonna, not all cases, but most cases, that goes away. But this heavy dose they're gonna give you for the first couple of months, be careful. Go get your levels checked, and they'll tell you, I need you to go down the day before, or whatever you do you take your next shot or your next injection. I need you to go have your levels checked before, to see where you are at before in that week, since before that 7th day when you got injected again. So they want to see where you are at the end of that. And if your levels, let's be clear, if they're in the 1200 and up, really 900 and above, it's going to be very high. And if you don't have a menstrual cycle, what happens is it converts back into estrogen. So be clear. I went through it. So I went through it. Like I said, I'd done menopause back when I was like 47, and hadn't had a cycle since then, which was, thank God, right? Even though they were easy and mild, they weren't like all the girls I knew's cycles were crazy. Mine was easy and never really bothered me, other than the fact that I'm having it. I shouldn't be having a menstrual cycle, but anyway, so what happened was my levels got so high that the estrogen, then it converted back into estrogen and brought on a cycle. So, but we reduced, now, because I was fast-tracked through through puberty. Now I was able to drop my dose and take, half of that, because I was on 1 milligram. Then now I take a half. But what she did was she put me on a quarter of the milligram for a couple of weeks, and then I went back up to just half. And now I get my levels checked now, like once a year. But in your first year, you will have your levels checked frequently, right? And so that's one. Your voice. You gonna then? You said you get hair anyway, so I see you gonna have your whole beard long before me, 2 years plus after testosterone. I shaved this a lot so that it could all grow in, you know, the same. But I'm hairy, but it's just not yet. It's white. It's white and it's white and dark brown, so it'll get there. But I guarantee you, your facial hair, that and your body hair, get ready, because it's coming. When you take testosterone, believe me, the hair is coming. Hair loss, I think we talked about, that depends on your genetics. And there's nothing you could do about that except, you know, get ready like me and get you a hair piece coming in so that they could hook you up. Because eventually, I mean, this is going to be fun. I used to have a widow's peak. I had such, you know, I've always had thin, fine hair, but this side, look, I got to keep it forward or else it's all the way receded. Damn near half the back of my So get ready for that. So you will get hair and embrace it. And, you know, you can shave it. You can shave it every day if you want. If you don't want hair, that's fine. Most people, you know, everybody has their own preference. Me, I like this, and I try to keep this short until all this can grow in. And I don't want a big bushy. I don't like big bushy beards and stuff. So I got to keep it short and clean and neat. That's some of the changes coming your way. You will then have some heightened dysphoria, more so around bathrooms and things like that. So until you begin to become confident, and I'm a man, so I go to the bathroom and I go straight to the men's bathroom, and I don't look at anybody. I don't speak to anyone. I go straight to the bathroom and do my business. Sometimes I'm waiting in a line because the guys all go to the stall. I don't know if they're reading their phone or the news or what they're doing in there, but they're in there for a while. So, you know, it takes time, but that's what I do. I handle myself. You know, men speak very little words. So if they do speak to you, it's just like, what up? Or hey, amen. And then it's just sometimes just this, you know, what's up? And move right on. I don't want to talk to you. I ain't got no business to handle with you. I'm just here to handle my own self. So, you know, being confident and being the man and letting that, it takes time, right? Because you've always been the girl and the woman and this. And it takes time to finally say, I have arrived and I am a man. And carry myself in that way so that I'm not, you know, somebody doing a double take. What the, you know? So when you handle yourself and you come in with that chest up, just like they do, you learn their walk. You're going to learn how they talk. Like I said, very few words. You walk strong, you go in there, handle your business, and you walk right out the door. You don't have anything to worry about, you know? I make no conversation. I don't care if they're in there for 2 hours and or not, maybe not 2 hours, but however long. If it takes that long for them, I'm not going to say much. I'm right there, waiting, or I'll walk around the store until, you know, it clears out. But there's a lot of changes coming for you, my friend. Get ready and embrace them. Know that this journey is wide open. There's no holds barred, right? It's a journey of a whole anew. It's anew. It's a rebirth. And it's learning baby steps all over again, folks. This is not just someone choosing one gender over the other. This is a person. We are people who just want to live a life we should have been born in, that we somehow got denied. Okay? And it is a process. of relearning how to live anew. And every bit of help we could get from our allies and our support groups and people in general, society, give us a break and let us just be. We're not wanting anything from anybody, and we're not out here to take anything from anyone, and we're not forcing you to accept us. We are just asking for you to simply respect us and just let us be. My friend, it has been a pleasure. Is there anything you want to share that we have not covered?
No, I think that, we have plenty of time, and I think that it'll give us opportunity for the next time.
That's right. We have plenty. And Nick, you are an amazing person. And I say that not because the more I get to know of you, the more in love with the way you think and how you bring about a calm in me. And I look at you as somebody who is going to be the next strong person to take this information and education and understanding to a different level. And I am so happy that you and I are here together and that we're going to continue to bring about this for these folks and many more to explore and see. Like I said, this is all this is going to be going on to YouTube. We already Spotify, Twitter is following us as well. And we have Anchor, which puts us right on Spotify. Twitch, hoping to build an audience, and that takes time, as I am finding out, but that's okay because all we have is time. This is all recorded and we could play it back over and over again. That's the beauty of going live and recording, right? So in closing, I'm sorry.
That's it.
It's all about just go back and hit replay. There's nothing wrong with that. So in closing, as I said at the start of this podcast, it is very critical for anyone going through this transition or thinking about starting their transition and journey to first build that support network and give the people you love time to process and understand and accept it. Let them grieve. Help them understand that it is not a choice. You don't have a choice. but that this is just the way it is. The disconnect is no one's fault. Our parents want to blame themselves. What could I have done different? Did I not take enough vitamins? Did I take too many? My mother has been through that. It is just how we are born. Simple. We're just different. The very least each person deserves is respect. Understanding that not all people in our lives will be ready to accept it, but never discount that they won't eventually gravitate back to you once they do their homework and make their peace with it within themselves. A lot of trans people today never transition because of the fear of losing those they love the most. But honestly, if you lose someone to find yourself and live your best life, were they really truly yours to begin with? Love, guys. Love is just like us trans. You can't see what's in here. You can't see it. You feel it. Right? So, So until they find it within themselves, live the best life where they really, truly yours to begin with. I don't tell anyone else how to live their life or what is best for their lives. Why would I allow anyone else to tell me what is best for me? I will live this life, and only I will die my death. No one else can do that for me except me. So why then do people try so hard to change others? And yes, it is in all parts of life. Just love people as is. Trying to change people is not showing love. It's showing control and saying you know what's best. And that is simply not healthy and never, ever goes over well. Just be you. and happy being you. Fall in love with yourself, my friend. Fall in love with yourself. By being true to you, yourself, you can always and will always be true to everyone around you. Break the hate cycle and choose love. Choose happiness. Choose to be better and magnetic. Be the person that draws others to you, not the one that people run from. Know that no person on this planet got to choose their life. No one. It was chosen for us. How we live it, well, that is up to each and every one of us. Right? To live it inside out, me and you, takes courage and will. And there had been way too many trans brothers and sisters, their lives lost in search of living their true, authentic lives. Either it was just too hard for them to take, or it was too hard to lose the ones they love. So in closing, my friends, hold on. Or it was stolen from them, sorry. We have to take a stand to put an end to those kinds of losses. Education and information is key. The more information and education we can put out there, the more chance we have to see change. So, until next time, folks, stay safe and stay healthy. I'm Matt, and that's Nick. We are out.
Red cups and sweaty bodies everywhere, hands in the air like we don't care, 'cause we came to have so much fun now. Got somebody here, might be the one now.
If you're not ready to go home, can I get a hell no? 'Cause we're gonna go all night till we see the sunlight, alright.
So la-da-dee-da-dee, we like to party, dancing you and me, doing whatever we want. And this is our house, and this is our rules, and we can't stop, and we won't stop. Can't you see it's we who own the night?
Can't you see it's we who about that life?
And we can't stop, and we won't stop. We run things, things don't run. We
don't take nothing from nobody.
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
to my homegirls just trying to live it up, shaking it like they can't get enough. Remember, only God can judge us. Forget the haters, cause somebody loves you.
Memories made till the night's through, surrounded by the ones who love you. We all so turned up here, getting turned up, yeah.
So la-da-dee-da-dee, we like to party, dancing you and me, doing whatever we want. This is our house, this is our rules.
And we
I'm here, bud.
can't stop, and we won't stop. Can't you see it's we who own the night?
Can't you see it's
Yeah,
we
I'm
who
here.
about that life?
And
Got me.
we can't stop, and we won't stop. We run things, things don't run
Yes.
we. Don't take nothing from
Yes.
nobody. Yeah, yeah. It's our party, we can do what we want to. It's our house, we can love who we want to.
It's our song, we can sing if we want to. It's my mouth, I can say what I want to.
No.
And we can't stop.
Wow.
And we
It felt like 10
won't
minutes.
stop.
Can't you see it's we who own the night? Can't you see it's we who about that life?
And we